Hello, and thanks for tuning in. Today I'm going to be taking a look at a section of video from Omegon, and why I disagree with the particular premise put forth. Most of the video I agree with, it's just this particular section that I take exception to. The basic premise to which Omegon is responding is as follows.
Why do you defend Muslims? They would kill you for being transgender.
That's very interesting, because a quick Google search indicates that you're wrong.
With that said, and keeping in mind that I generally agree with Omegon on this subject, let us go to the part I disagree with.
For instance, just like there are different denominations of Christianity, there are various sects of Islam. The main ones are Sunni and Shia, but even within those, there are tons of further division.
Because of how different the faiths are, I don't think it's such a good idea to compare the denominations of Christianity with the sects of Islam.
And there it is, the part that I disagree with. The basic premise I disagree with is that you cannot compare them linearly. They both have their own book that dictates what their belief is. They both have their moderates who would say that killing in general is wrong, but that specifically if God commands it, it is righteous. They all have their extremists from whom they are inextricably tied and refuse to break ties with.
The way the religions are structured, yes, there are groups and denominations and sects and tribes and blah blah blah, but the faith structure is a little different on both sides.
However, while I think it's stupid for Riley to say that, well, Christianity does it, so Muslims can do it too, I think it is also disingenuous a little bit to say, well, one of them is more tolerable at it than the others. The only difference is time.
I would argue that Christianity is nowhere near as bad in current year, yes. Great argument, I know.
It depends on what you mean by as bad. Yes, Christians are not throwing gays off of roofs, but they're killing small children with faith healings. And in both the Muslims and the Christians, the moderates do not call out the extremes in these particular issues. I realize this is nuanced and they are different arguments, but they're the same fundamental underlying corollary.
As that of Islam in current year. Super rational argument there. But if I'm wrong, please correct me in the comments below. I'm all for learning after all.
I'm going to pretend this counts as a comment, because I did leave you one already, but I think this is a bit more thorough. Let's continue.
Thinking of Islam as a monolith would be like saying that all Catholics, Protestants, Lutherans, Baptists, and Episcopalians believe the same thing, but that would be ridiculous.
But that's incorrect, Riley, because that would mean that they don't believe that Jesus died for their sins, or that Yahweh created the earth. It's not ridiculous to say that they think the Bible is the literal word of God, even if they all interpret it slightly differently. That's not completely ridiculous.
Plus, even though people generally associate Muslims with the Middle East, the majority of them, about 62%, live in the Asia-Pacific region. Indonesia is the country with the largest Muslim population. But when people try to talk about what all Muslims believe, they usually reference the laws of Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, or Afghanistan.
Correct. And as Omegon correctly pointed out, that's where the majority of it happens. The part Omegon kind of left out was things like hashtag Save Dina Ali, in which those Asian countries do in fact answer to countries like Saudi Arabia for extraditing persons under Sharia law. Which, oddly enough, is exactly the same reason I disagree with Omegon on this point. The moderates, in this case the Asians that Riley is referencing, are actually falling in line with the harsher aspects of Sharia by not letting Muslim women go unaccompanied by men.
It's a horrible law, but it's a law put in place by the Saudi Arabian government, not the religion of Islam. It'd be kind of like if we had no separation of church and state and the Westboro Baptist Church was in charge. Do you think they'd be very kind to gay people? Of course not, but that wouldn't represent all Christians.
I freaking knew you were going to use the Westboro Baptist Church. Such a terrible argument to make. 40 nuts jobs. 40.
No, but the point Riley's making is that there are people like Eric Hovind who basically have the same views because of the same book as the Westboro Baptists. The great majority of Christians have no problem calling homosexuality a sin and saying that people will burn for it, and that if it is God's judgment, those people should die. It doesn't happen as much here, but it happens in North Africa, and it's done by Christians. Sometimes the offense is witchcraft. Sometimes it's something more mundane. Yes, it doesn't happen much in America, but neither does radical Islamic terrorism.
4-0. No more, and countless millions of people that are being conditioned to believe trash. You cannot equate the two.
But we do actually have this problem in America. If you look at, for example, the Texas school curriculum guidelines that set the standards for the books that go in, or the countless Christians trying to and successfully getting Christian education in public schools, right beside what the SJWs are now doing. Again, I'm not defending Riley here. I'm just telling you that I think there is more to it than you're giving it credit for.
That's because Saudi Arabia's laws are largely based on Wahhabism, which is a specific sect of Islam, just like the Westboro Baptist Church's version of baptism is a sect of Christianity. And just like most Christians disagree with the Westboro Baptist Church, most Muslims disagree with Wahhabism.
Yes, but all Christians despise the Westboro Baptist Church for being intolerant sects.
But while the main churches will sometimes decry the Westboros, you have many of the same views held by their congregants. So even though the Catholic Church may say that it is more accepting of homosexuals, for example, there are still a great many people who follow things like Bible-believing churches, or what have you, which have values that are very aligned with the Westboros. Pat Robertson, Josh Feuerstein, Jerry Falwell, and Jack Chick all come to mind, sharing the ideals of the Westboro Baptist Church, and they comprise a great deal more than 40 congregants.
Whereas most Muslims aren't stupid enough to insult that sect, as at some point in their life, the majority are going to want to go on their little pilgrimage, which happens to end in Saudi Arabia.
No, but the Christians and Muslims both have the same fear of hell that compels them to act in the way that they do, whether it's circumcising children or trying to avoid hellfire by not giving their children medical care, or by even protecting the priests and pastors when they perform abuse against other members. Again, it's not exactly the same, but I believe it has the same underlying corollary, in that it's very difficult for most Christians to outright say, those people do not believe in the Bible, without saying they themselves also do not believe in it, because it is the same set of teachings. And I'm using Christian broadly here, to include Jehovah's Witness, Mormons, and so on, because they are Christian. And that's going to be it for today. If you enjoyed this, please click the thumbs up. If you didn't, then click the thumbs down. Leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. The link to the original video will be in the description. And as always, this has been Reverend JR, signing off.